Good morning, afternoon or evening. Today I have my first speculation video on the new country to be added into war selection. I hope you enjoy, and I hope my theories are correct. First of all, I think it's going to be Austria Hungary for the First Industrial Revolution, and then progression into the Kingdom of Hungary in the Second Industrial Revolution, as all the teased units that were designed and produced by Austria Hungary, or the Kingdom of Hungary as you will see. Starting with what Austria Hungary is. Austria-Hungary was a nation that fought in World War I on Germany's side in the war. It was known for its heavy artillery, which is being represented in the game by the teasers. Austria-Hungary was the dual monarchy of Austria and Hungary, as the name suggests, and this was a hugely powerful nation located in Europe, with one of the most advanced railway networks in the time. I believe that Austria-Hungary will be the IR1 option for East or West Europe, but it could be like Germany, which makes it accessible from East and West Europe. After IR1, I think that you'll be able to progress into IR2 as the Kingdom of Hungary, which fought on the Axis side in World War II. The Kingdom of Hungary in World War II had strong tanks and vehicles, which is also being represented effectively in the game through the teasers so far. We will start in the units that are likely to be found in IR1. This is the 42cm Halbitsa M14-16. It was produced by the Austro-Hungarian Empire during World War I and was used to defend the coastlines initially because it would work with coordination of other howitzers to fire on large ships such as dreadnoughts, to penetrate the deck and destroy them. This was done because up to that point, destroying large dreadnoughts and cruisers was done through the thickly armoured sides, making it expensive and also meaning that the artillery firing at ships needed a clear line of sight and armour to withstand returning fire. The howitzer were mounted on 360 degrees turnable bases while being camouflaged into the hills or forests around the coasts to fire at ships off the coast. This idea was later changed as they were used as movable siege howitzers. They were so effective that they were later used in the siege of Leningrad by the Germans in World War II, and even being mounted onto movable platforms on trains. Adapted into war selection, you can expect this to be an IR1 unit for Austria-Hungary, as a stationary artillery such as the Turkish Mortar tower. Because the model in-game seems to be embedded into concrete, it suggests it won't be able to move, as in real life. But with a 360-degree turning angle, meaning it can fire in all directions with considerable armour, making it a strong siege artillery for Austria-Hungary. It will likely be buildable by workers and engineers, much like the Turkish Mortar tower. This is the Skoda 305mm model 1911, a massive siege mortar which was produced and built by Skoda from 1911 to 1918. 79 were built and used extensively in World War I to destroy fortifications, as it had two different shell types. An armour-piercing version with a timed fuse for destroying bunkers and fortresses, and a lighter high-explosive shell which when fired created a crater 8 meters wide and 8 meters deep, and killed infantry up to 400 meters away. It could fire 10 to 12 shells an hour with a crew of 15 to 17. The interesting part about this siege mortar is that it was completely movable and took about 50 minutes to disassemble and reassemble in the field. The way they did this was by separating the gun into 3 parts, each with its own trailer, the base of the gun, the barrel, and the body. This was then towed by an M12 tractor, which pulled all of this and the crew using 3 separate trailers. Adapted into war selection, you will see this unit in IR1, and will probably not replace the howitzer in the factory, as it's slightly different. It will likely be made to be movable, like shown in the teaser we got from the developers, but as shown in this image, there is no connections to the other trailer parts, leading me to believe that the siege mortar will likely be simplified for the game so that when selected and told to, it will construct itself to a stationary gun platform to fire, and then to move it will become this as shown in the image. Or the developers are not showing the entire process, but I think for ease of design and programming it will be kept to a simple and easy to make design, and when moving it will move like shown in the image. The mortar will likely be expensive and slow, but with high damage and range, and also slow movement speed and not so much reload speed. This is the 43M Zidini, first designed in 1942 based on the Sturmgeschütz 3 Ausf F, which was an iconic and very successful tank destroyer and support tank for the Germans. Hungary at this time wanted some of these Stug 3s for themselves as they were lacking a vehicle like this, but Germany couldn't supply enough of them to Hungary, so they made their own. They used the hull as a base from the Turin tank, which was a medium tank already in service, and a similar armament to the Stug 3, with a 35mm gun for anti-tank and a 105mm howitzer for infantry support. The hull was made to have a frontier armour of 75mm. The first version of the Zidini was in 1944, where it was used for anti-tank with a 75mm gun and 100mm of armour. Later the Zidini II was made and armed with a 105mm howitzer to act as infantry support. Around 100 were built, and some even used in defence of Budapest towards the end of the war, with a crew of 4 and a maximum speed of 43 km per hour. Adapted into war selection, you will likely see this vehicle in IR2 as it is developed in World War II, and will likely act as a medium support tank in-game, researched through the light tank upgrade, similar to how the T-34 works. I assume we'll be seeing the shorter barreled version of the tank with a 105mm howitzer, as this is what the teaser shows. This would mean that the tank would be similar in use to the howitzer, but mobile and armoured. With high armour at 100mm, this tank would also have a high armour rating in the game. It would take 4 to 5 population due to the crew size and also balance reasons, and would be for IR2 in the Kingdom of Hungary. In the teaser we got 2 versions of the tank, one with camo and one without. I think that the camo version, as it looks identical to the normal version, will be used for China in its foreign supply centre. This unit is the Kingdom of Hungary's 40M Nimrod, which was produced in 1943 as a tank destroyer, but with the ineffectiveness of the vehicle at piercing the Red Army's tanks, such as the KV-1, meant it was reclassified as a SPAAG, self-propelled anti-air gun. It had low armour at around 28mm on the turret. It was used mainly for anti-air purposes, but it was also used to fire at lightly armoured vehicles. It had a large crew of 6 and a 40mm cannon, which used both high explosive and armour-piercing munitions, which could fire 120 to 140 rounds a minute, depending on the elevation of the gun. Adapted into war selection, this vehicle will be IR2 as it is developed in World War II, and will likely replace the light tank. You could also expect this vehicle to be very similar to the Polish tank KD, just a bit larger, and it will be moving fast and firing with medium damage. The difference is that the crew is of 6, meaning that its population will likely be quite high in the game, but also it's able to fire at air targets with its fast fire rate, meaning it would be a great mobile anti-air gun to assist other tank rushes. This is the 39M Xava Armored Car designed in 1930s and produced from 1939 till 1944. It was used as a scout vehicle and command car, and it was not used extensively in combat. It was armed with a 20mm anti-tank rifle and a machine gun in the central mounted turret with an additional removable light machine gun, which came out of the back of the turret to fire at air targets. This meant that the armoured car could defend itself from other lightly armoured vehicles with its anti-tank rifle and machine guns to fend off infantry. The vehicle had little armour at around 9mm, making it very vulnerable, but it also had a rear driving position, making it very manoeuvrable. Adapted into war selection, you will likely see this vehicle in IR2 as an armoured car, and it will likely be replacing the armoured car already in game. This vehicle will be fast with low armour and low population cost, as it only had a crew of 3, but it will also be able to fight off air attacks with a combination of the Nimrod. Could be a powerful rush force, as they both have strengths with anti-tank capabilities and anti-air, with them both being fast. Overall, this makes it out to me that Austria Hungary would be a hugely focused nation on defence with its stationary howitzers and mortars, but also be able to push out of its defence to snipe players and deal lots of damage with its anti-air and anti-tank vehicles. Remember, this is all speculation as how they will be added into the game, so let's see how they do it. Thank you for watching, enjoy the rest of your day, and goodbye.